The grove burns with cold moonlight as Jason stands before the dragon of Colchis, its coils rising like living mountains, its sleepless eyes fixed upon him. Scales glimmer like obsidian shields. The ground trembles beneath its ancient weight. The hiss becomes a storm rolling through the trees. Jason lifts the vial Medea gave him, breath sharp, heart iron hard, knowing one misstep ends everything. Will mortal resolve save him, or will the eternal guardian of Ares prove stronger? Jason's long voyage had carved months from his life and years from his spirit. The Argo had crossed seas where sun and moon seemed to forget their order, braved storms sent by hostile kings and jealous gods. Yet nothing weighed on him like the knowledge that the Golden Fleece now hung so close, inside a grove whispered about even by the bold. The prophecy had warned him, the final guard does not sleep. Still, the prize was near. Glory, legitimacy, the return of his stolen throne, only one impossible trial remained. His plan felt thin as breath on steel. Medea's enchanted salve had protected him from fire-breathing bulls. Her potions had confused the earthborn warriors conjured from scattered teeth. But this was different. A sleepless dragon, ancient before empires, forged for war by gods who loved terror. He weighed pride, its heat, its hunger, against the danger, the cost, the bones scattered before the sacred oak of Ares. The grove itself seemed alive with warning, humming with a darkness older than mortal memory. Yet he could not turn back now, not after everything. So he studied the terrain, the twisted trees, the uneven ground, the roots swollen with centuries of divine wrath. He recited the chant Medea had taught him, each syllable heavy with forbidden power. He rehearsed the approach in silence, imagining the distance between life and ruin marked by a single, perfectly timed breath. His allies waited far behind, their torches dimmed, their faces drawn tight with fear. None could follow him in. This trial was meant for one. Or so they believed. He alone would carry the burden, but the power he carried was hers. Medea had pressed the vial into his palm with a warning that felt like prophecy. Use it only when death is upon you. Her words echoed like an oath, more binding than any shield, more certain than any sword. He inhaled the iron-scented air and stepped into the grove of Ares. The black trees rose like spears around him. The moonlight thinned to nothing. Silence pressed against his ears like a hand. Then he saw it, the oak, vast as a siege tower, with the Golden Fleece cascading from its boughs in molten radiance. And at its roots, coiled in endless vigil, the dragon. The eyes opened wider. The hiss deepened. The final guard had awakened. Jason had made his choice. The dragon's breath rattled the grove, a furnace of venomous vapor curling the grass to ash. Its power struck at Jason's oldest fear, insignificance. Against such scale, he was a flicker of life, a mortal spark beneath a storm of ages. Yet he walked forward. The first strike came like lightning, fangs, stone-shattering impact, earth exploding beneath its jaws. Jason leapt aside, dust, heat, venom hissing across the soil. Another strike, another shockwave. He rolled, breath burning, ribs screaming. Transformation began in the crucible of survival. He sprinted toward the serpent's coiled length, choosing danger over retreat. The dragon's tail swept through the grove with the force of a siege ram. Trees shattered, roots tore free. Jason dove again, boots skidding across broken soil. He felt himself becoming something else, leaner, harder, stripped of doubt. The dragon's head pivoted, unblinking, eternal. It saw everything. It missed nothing. Its vigilance was a weapon sharper than its fangs. Jason felt the beast's gaze pierce him deeper than steel. It sensed his desperation, his guilt, his fear. It knew he depended on borrowed magic. It knew he feared being forgotten. The guardian spoke nothing, yet its stare declared, "You are not worthy." Jason refused that judgment. He broke from cover and ran along the serpent's flank, his steps light upon obsidian scales. The dragon reared, twisting, its body writhing like a living tempest. Jason was tossed, slammed hard against the roots of the sacred oak. Pain flared bright. His vision narrowed to a trembling thread. The beast lunged, its jaws opened, a cavern of darkness lined with dripping death. Jason rose to his knees, every breath a roar. With shaking hands, he uncorked Medea's vial. He waited, Too early, and the potion would scatter uselessly. Too late, and he would vanish inside those fangs. The jaws descended. He leapt into their shadow. He flung the potion upward. A shimmering mist erupted, catching stray glints of moonlight like drifting starlight. At once he chanted Medea's chant, each syllable a blade of forbidden sorcery. The mist struck the dragon's face, soaking into its eyes, its snout, its breath. For a heartbeat, nothing changed. Then the grove shook. The dragon reared back with a scream that tore ancient bark from trees. It convulsed, smashing its skull against roots older than kings. Rocks split. Dust boiled upward. The ground cracked beneath its agony. Jason crawled away, lungs raw, heart hammering like a war drum. Slowly, agonizingly, the thrashing weakened. The furious coils trembled. The hiss softened into a final, strangled whisper. The eyes, bright as molten iron, dulled. Heavy lids began to sink. The dragon fought its first descent into slumber, but darkness claimed it. With a shudder that rolled through the grove, the colossal head struck the earth. The dragon slept, for the first and only time in 1,000 years. Jason did not return to who he was. His allies watched from the grove's edge as he emerged, bloodied, staggering, shadowed by awe. They had expected the triumphant stride of a conqueror. What they saw was a man who had stood beneath the weight of eternity. Behind him, the Guardian's massive form rose and fell in slow, impossible breaths. Even sleeping, the dragon held dominion over the grove, a living mountain that refused to crumble. Jason felt its presence in the marrow of his bones. The cost of victory pressed upon him with every step. His body shook from the blows. His spirit trembled from the truth. Strength had not saved him. Steel had meant nothing. Against an eternal sentinel, he had survived only by trusting Medea's power. Yet within that humility lay his unique triumph. No hero before him had outwitted the Sleepless dragon. None had turned its eternal watch into a weakness. Jason had not conquered the Guardian. He had slipped past it. That was his mark upon legend. He approached the sacred oak. The Golden Fleece glowed like dawn caught in wool, its radiance warm but formidable. Touching it felt like touching a heartbeat older than war. Its power thrummed through his arm like a vow. He lifted it carefully, letting its weight settle upon him like destiny. In that moment, he understood what had truly saved him. Not the strength he carried into the grove, but the choice he made within it. The choice to trust Medea. The choice to risk dishonor for survival. The choice to live and to face whatever judgment followed. The dragon still existed behind him, a sleeping titan who might wake with hunger and rage. But Jason moved forward, toward the Argo, toward destiny, toward consequences he could not yet see. He walked out of the grove no longer the man who entered. History remembers him for winning the fleece, but he learned a harsher truth. Strength alone is an illusion. Ahead waited storms that would test him anew. Subscribe to Saga Weaver, where ancient warriors face impossible choices.